Question of the day, what is your favorite difficult co-op game? Simple though, so things like The Mind, things like Hanabi, games in which you play together with a team and then potentially ruin your friendships forever. I told you that was a 4! Hanabi, rough game. But today we're talking about Tranquility, a game in which you are sailing the seas of tranquility. Not that one, but more metaphysical, although the art in this game is fantastic, I'll tell you that right now. It's a game in which you are filling in a grid pattern, but you're having to discard cards in a smart fashion to do so, hoping that you have enough cards left to play at the end and finish the grid. Let's talk about how to play Tranquility from Lucky Duck Games, and then we'll come back up and talk final thoughts right now. Alright, this is Tranquility set up for however many players. It's a 6x6, well, it's 5x5 in the center, but you put 6 cards on this side, this side, this side, and that side, leaving the 4 corners open. The start card would not be here yet. It would actually be shuffled into one of the players' decks, and essentially you're going to split the deck up, shuffle it up with the finished cards in there, mixed in. You're going to shuffle it up and split it in half, or however many players you have, roughly, and give each player a deck. You're then going to draw up to 5 cards, and you'll be playing from there. If you get a start card and one hasn't been played, you must play it, and the start card will go down there. On your turn, you can do one of two things. You can play a card, and the way this works, you go sequentially from left to right, and then from there it wraps to the next row like this. So, if you play a card, for instance, we're going to play 5. Now, had we played the start card, we would have to discard 8 cards between everybody, but we'll talk about why that's important in a minute. So if we were to play the 5 here to start, the next card played, what we'd have to do is we'd play the difference. We'd look at the other person's hand now. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, we have 27, 51, 1, and 9. Now, 1 would have been great to have gone first, but you cannot communicate. You can't say, oh, I had a 1. You can't talk about it beforehand. There's a strict communication rule, except for when discarding the 8 cards for the start card. It's the only time you can discuss. So now, my best option is to play the 9. So I'm going to play 9. Now, when you play a card, you must discard the amount of cards in between the difference. So 9 and 5 would be 4. There's 4 cards. We would discard 4 cards from the top of my deck into my own discard pile. Now, why that matters is if you run out of cards, you can't play an action. And everybody does that, you'll lose the game. So you can continue playing cards out of your hand if you can, but you can't draw back up if you have nothing left. You can't flip your discard pile over. It's not one of those types of games. So it's a little bit persnickety there, in that you've got to be careful about what you play. So essentially you're going to be playing these cards up and discarding the cards in between, and then playing, once it's all full, you'll play the finished card in the top right corner there, and you've won. If you can't do that, if no one's able to play a legal move, whether they have too low of cards or wrong cards, you would lose the game. Now, one other thing you can do on your turn, instead of having to play a 51 or 52 here, or 27 for that matter, is you can discard 2 cards. So we're going to discard, now obviously I would have drawn back up to 5. Well, there's a 6. Still doesn't work for us. So we're going to discard the 1 and the 6 right here. We'll draw 2 cards back up. That will be our turn. So now we have 15 and 23, which are not awful cards. So the next time it comes around, we can play maybe the 15 here, or perhaps my other player there will have their cards and they can play something else. So that is how you're going to play Tranquility. There are some expansions and variants that have, jagged rocks, the sea monsters, and all that sort of stuff. But this alone is tricky enough where it's almost like open information Hanabi in a sense, where you're like, please don't play that, please don't play it. It's really, really tricky in that sense, but it's a great brain burner game. Plus, it looks amazing. I love this Tranquility art. All the art is quite tranquil, if you know what I mean. Look, daytime, nighttime, all the art looks really cool like that. Very, very well done. The mirrored effect there is so cool. So that is Tranquility from Lucky Duck. So that's Tranquility. First of all, the game looks adorable. I love this cube. Anything that's small like that, I'm a fan of, that you can pack, throw in a backpack. But it takes up a lot of room on the table. Having that 25 card grid is actually pretty big. However, the game looks beautiful. The card art is fantastic. I love the way this looks. The fact that there are 2 sides to every card, the daytime, nighttime, is just beautiful. It really, really, really strikes me as a pretty game. How does it play? It's very difficult, actually. I know there are variants that make it harder, but this is not an easy game to play in the first place, because you're having to try to hope that you can play the right cards with your team, hoping that is it worth discarding 9 to go ahead and move up to where we get closer in these, or is it worth discarding 2 now to hopefully get closer to the ones that'll get me later? Every single action is thinking that out. And then every single action, watching what your friend does, going, oh no, I was going to play 16 when you played 17. Things like that are agonizing. But brilliant game, really smart. This is in that vein of Hanabi in the Mind, but I think this one does it a little bit only better in the sense that seeing it down on the table makes it more of a table game versus a hand game. And I think that helps. I think seeing a game on a table is more appealing than a game in the hands. That's just me. But Tranquility from Lucky Duck Games, go check this out if you like hard, difficult puzzlers between multiple players. Plays pretty quick. It packs up tiny and just a fun, beautiful game. So that's Tranquility from Lucky Duck. I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Brian. Until next time, we'll see ya.